Today, we are getting you ready for your holiday gatherings and needed host gifts with a brief schooling on wines. Our guest, Amy Gangamella, fell in love with wine in Italy and educates others on wine. And she looks at wine from a global perspective. In our show notes, we will include her holiday wine picks and pairings, as well as the Steel Magnolias wine list with a more U.S. and Southern focus. Meet you at the table. I'm Lainey.
And I'm Laura Beth. And we are
Steel Magnolias.
The strength of steel.
With the grace of a magnolia.
We are here to have uplifting conversations about life in the South.
And we've got plenty of room at our table, so pull up a chair.
All right. Well, we are thrilled to be sitting here with our new friend, Amy Gangamella, aka Amy on Cloud Wine. I almost went with the play on words that you pulled that from. Amy on Cloud Wine, to discuss holiday wine as we approach Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now, wine, we know, could be a part of some of the host gifts that you'd like to consider this season, or even the menu of some of your upcoming special occasions. So we felt like this was the right topic to launch into even in early November. And Amy's going to help us understand how to evaluate a wine and just help us confidently pair wines with our upcoming holiday meals. So first of all, Amy, welcome to the Steel Magnolias podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura Beth and Lainey. I'm so happy to be here and share more about wine.
Yeah. So Amy, you're a wine educator and professional. So tell us, what does that mean and how in the world did you get to that point of specialty?
Sure. So first off, I want to share a quick story of how it all began. I treated myself to a Euro trip after graduating from my master's degree, and I went to Europe for 35 days. I visited 9 countries, and within that time period, I visited Italy. And prior to this trip, I was a casual wine drinker, those popular wines we all drink and go towards, barefoot, for example. But when I went to Italy and we stopped in Tuscany, we had a side trip where I went to a vineyard with our group, and the last wine of the evening was a Chianti Reserva. And let me tell you, when I had that wine, it changed my world. It was spicy. It was fruit forward. I never knew a wine could be like that. It was extraordinary. So that is the moment I call my Vinlightenment. And and I then decided in that moment, coming back from my trip, I'm going to read more about wine. I went reading book after book. I saw a few documentaries and I said, you know what? Why not pursue this? I'm already reading so many books. Let's get a certification. Let's become a wine professional. And that's what I did. I took my certified specialist of wine exam. I passed, and now I am hosting my own wine tasting events.
Wow. Okay. So is that a pretty vigorous process? I mean, tell us like timeline wise, is that days, weeks, months?
It's what you make of it. It's a self-study program. So for me, I took the full year. I also have a daytime job as a scientist, and then in the evenings, I do my wine business. So, balancing both that and family, I had to take the full year. But a wine educator, I just share my passion with wine with those that want to learn about it through my private wine tasting events. And I also share it on my social media posts. I make wine fun, affordable, and approachable.
So good. So good.
Well, I've made a couple of trips to the Napa and Sonoma area and gotten to taste some wonderful wines. Yes. And it's funny, you kind of see a mix of people in that world. You do have the true snobbery, but there's a lot of really wonderful people who also just say, hey, like what you like. It doesn't matter the price point as long as you like it.
Yeah.
So I like when people kind of give you some grace in the learning of it all.
That's good.
Yes, I agree. Wine is an evolving subject and topic that is changing year after year.
True.
Yeah, I like thinking about how wine changes over, like each year it can be different based on weather and conditions. And it kind of keeps it exciting. Even if you find one you like, it may taste different.
Yes, that's what I like to focus on. I can tell you about wine, but really everyone experiences it differently on their own palate. You can be a super taster where things are very sensitive, or you can just enjoy wine just because it's wine. I like to approach it on all levels, and whatever you want to make of it, we'll go with it, because I like to make it fun.
Well, let's talk about we're doing this timing based on we've got the upcoming big holidays of Thanksgiving and Christmas. I know for me, I do spend a little more at the liquor store at this time of year than the rest of the year. So let's just look at some of the typical holiday meals and kind of evaluate together, if you don't mind, the best wines for different occasions. Maybe we just start with Thanksgiving. Most people have the traditional turkey and sides of sweet potatoes and stuffing, or dressing, as we call it in the South.
Your turkey, you want to think Zinfandel. Zinfandel can be found from California, or why don't you choose a Primitivo from Italy? They are the same grape, but you're going to get different flavors and aromas, little different styling, because it's two different countries. For your mashed potatoes, you want to think, if you like it with the butter, think oaked Chardonnay. And I put the emphasis on oaked because that is a very creamy style of Chardonnay that has some buttery-like aspects to it. There you want to think of California again, Napa Valley, or you want to think French regions like white Burgundy. That's going to give you that oaked Chardonnay. For cranberry sauce, you want to think Beaujolais. Beaujolais is perfect for Thanksgiving because it is released the third Thursday of November, and our Thanksgiving here is the fourth Thursday. So it is a new wine that is released, and it's fruit forward. It's got those red fruit notes that will pair greatly with cranberry sauce.
That's
good.
Yeah. Other ones, if you have some roasted vegetables, you're going to want to go for a Gruyere Veltliner. And lastly, how about if you're doing like a green garden salad, you're going to want to go Greek and choose Assortico. That is high in acidity, and it will pair greatly with the cucumbers and tomatoes in your garden salad.
Oh, I want to do that just on a random dinner night, not just for Thanksgiving.
Seriously. And I do want to say, you have used so many words that I myself that's new vocabulary to me. So we are going to link to these wines and these pairings in our show notes, right? You've got it kind of set up for us to have some takeaways that we can visually see.
Yes, I will have great examples for all to see.
And as you were talking, I was also thinking about traditionally, when we do our Thanksgiving dinner, it's one plate that has lots of things on it instead of courses. So when you mentioned different things that go with different things that might be on the plate, is that just that will bring it to its full expression? And so like I can just pick one of those, have it with the whole plate, but when I eat it, or, eat the cranberry sauce with the wine you paired it with, that will be a full expression. Is that?
Yes. So what the main rule that I would love everyone to take away from today is you want to pair your wine based on the two aspects of my fate framework. F meaning fruit, A meaning acidity, T meaning tannins, and E is those extra elements. So out of those 4 steps, you really want to focus on the acidity and the tannins.
Okay.
I'm going to go through quickly framework. So fruit, you want to think with white wines, you want to think the 3 classifications. It could be herbal. We have grass, bell pepper, maybe tomato vine. That fresh tomato vine. So good. You can think of the tree fruits like apple, peach, or lemon. the floral notes, rose, violet, jasmine. With red wines, you're fruit forward. So you want to think red fruits, raspberry, cranberry, strawberries, black fruits, plums, blackcurrant, blackberry, and spice, cinnamon, mint, eucalyptus. So most wines will have some type of fruit characteristic. So when you're pairing it with your dishes, think what is going to be the most predominant aroma or flavor.
Okay.
And that's the wine you're going to want to pair it with. For acidity, acidity means it's a mouth-watering sensation in your mouth. You're going to refer to it as that crisp or tart. When you have a lemon, you're puckering, a mouth puckering sensation, and your mouth is watering. And there are 3 levels with that. You have where it's low, medium, or high. Now, with wine and food pairings, a rule of thumb is choose a wine that will be complementary. For example, a dish that has fish and lemon in it, you're going to want to pick a high acidic wine, such as Vinho Verde from Portugal. And that acidity and acidity will cancel each other out and mesh very well in the mouth.
Okay.
2 extremes will make it less extreme when you're putting 2 together. And for tannins, it's the opposite of acidity, and you have a drying sensation. Think of how you like your coffee or your tea.
Mhm.
If you have it black, you're most likely enjoying tannic wines, such as Cabernet Sauvignon. If you add a little bit of milk with your coffee or tea, you're probably going for a medium tannins. That's what you enjoy, like a Merlot. And if you add sugar, you're going for your sweet wines. So those are the 3 levels of tannins.
Okay.
And lastly, those extra elements that you have, such as body, you usually describe your wines as either light-bodied, medium-bodied, or bold-bodied. So when you think light, you think it's easygoing and it's usually a lower alcohol level. Medium level of alcohol, and bold, it's high. We're looking at 13% or higher for a bold. And a great example, again, would be Cabernet Sauvignon. And sweetness, well, most wines are dry. So although you feel like a wine has sweetness in it, it's most likely those fruit-forward aromas and notes that's tricking your mind to thinking it's actually sweet. Unless stated on the bottle, it's the residual sugar. So that could be represented by like Hershey candy bars. So for example, a dry wine would have about half a Hershey bar of sugar in it. Off dry, which is the medium level, would have a full Hershey bar. And for sweet, you're looking at either 4 full Hershey bars or 1 can of Coca-Cola.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and those wines you want to think of dessert wines like a port or a Sauternes from France. So if for those who are being healthy and being conscious about sweets, definitely go more towards bolder, dry wines. You can even do dry white wines. That's probably going to be your best bet. Sauvignon Blanc would be a great example of that. So again, going back to the best way to pair it with food, focus on that acidity and tannins. Tannins based on what you prefer on the palate, or acidity matching kind of what ingredients are within your meal.
That's what I like to do.
So as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking through whether I have been the host or whether I've been the guest. In many instances, the host has offered, and I do this too, would you like a white or a red? That's usually what I hear people say, and again, what I myself would say to someone. And so what would you say, even as the host who can't very well explain what you just explained, or even as the guest who really is like, I just thought I liked white wine, but maybe I like red wine, what would you say to a host that is going, okay, I've got a lot to cover for Thanksgiving dinner. I'm making the whole meal. It's going to be turkey. In the South, it's heavy creams, heavy carbs. It's a heavy, heavy, heavy meal, right?
Yeah,
That's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
It's in the South. So what would you say to the host that says, I really just want to get a white and a red option? What would kind of be your sort of guidance in that scenario?
So your foolproof wine, you can never fail. Go sparkling. Go sparkling wines.
Okay.
That is very food friendly. Champagne's a great example. Most people know what champagne tastes like.
Mhm.
And to really put it into perspective, you think of toasty notes. It's a dry, toasty, bread tasting wine. So that just goes with everything.
Mhm.
But if you're looking for more budget-friendly options, I recommend Cava. Cava is from Spain.
Okay.
It's much more affordable,
Mhm.
but it's similar toasty notes.
Mhm.
But if you like fruit-forward flavors, I recommend Prosecco. And Prosecco is from Northern Italy. And now they even have a rosé option. So
Mhm.
you can have both the color that's eye appealing and the fruit forwardness. Also, again, another budget friendly region.
That's good.
Now, I would definitely want to have a Zinfandel though. I think that's a
Ugh,
good
I
one
love
with turkey. I
Zinfandel.
just like that with that meal.
Mhm.
Oh, yes, it's a
that
perfect
would
pairing.
I would probably pick something more like that
So-
than something sparkling.
Zinfandel is funny because you mentioned that you've been a couple of times out to California for wine tastings, but I remember the stigma I walked into Napa Valley with, and it was Zinfandel comes in a box and it's stored in the fridge and it's white Zinfandel that, I've seen relatives drink out of, and that is simply not always the case. Zinfandel can
It can be a nice,
Um,
darker,
yes.
wonderful wine.
yes, bottled, not boxed, stored at room temperature, not cold. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that to anybody that also might
That's
be
hearing
listening.
boxed white Zinfandel. That's
Yes.
not what we're talking about.
Yes, it's so funny because we all start with those kind of wines, right? And then it's like a evolution of your palate. You
Yes.
start off sweeter and then you work your way through the white wines and then you have this extraordinary red and it changes your mind. And
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, I'm all about the reds. And as your palate develops, you're liking those bold wines like a Zinfandel. So you're at this certain stage that where you enjoy those spicy, bolder wines.
Yes.
And then maybe one day you'll be like, you know what? Let's start over again. I'm all into
It's
sparkling
so
again,
true.
and sweet wines. Yeah, everyone goes through this whole wheel of different wines.
And
So
I don't
it's where
think
you
you
want
can
to be.
throw a whole grape out. Like I remember saying, oh, I don't like Chardonnays. And then when I was in Napa, there's a winery called Alpha and Omega, and they had the
Yes.
best Chardonnay I've ever had. It
Mhm.
was so good. And it, was kind of buttery and
Yes.
wonderful. And so then I was like, oh, I can't say I don't like Chardonnay.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
some Chardonnay. But
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's talk about a Christmas party. Okay. So maybe an event where there's going to be heavy appetizers or hors d'oeuvres, maybe a large dessert, table of different
spread.
samplings and options. What would you say would be some good wines to put out for a Christmas party?
Sure. I'll give some crowd pleasers. You can't go wrong with these options. You want to do dry white wines. So think of a Riesling. A Riesling is a very versatile grape. You can have it range from dry to very sweet. But again, we're going to focus on the dry part. So great examples come from the New York Finger Lakes. You also want to think Germany. Those are great regions to obtain these Rieslings. You also want to do a dry rosé. Think of the south of France, Provence style rosés. Those would go great with everything. These, again, are food friendly. You can't go wrong. Crowd pleasers. To tickle the fancy of those who like high acidic red wines, a Pinot Noir from Oregon, delicious. Those red fruit forwardness.
Mhm. Mhm.
And again, Chardonnay, you can have it oaked or you can do unoaked. So the unoaked version, I personally adore the wines from Chablis, is a region in France.
Mhm.
And that just means it's fruit forward again, pear, peach, minerality, we call it. Great option.
That sounds good.
We also have for your main meals, how about if you're serving fish? Again, I would choose that Chablis option. If you're serving lamb, a Rioja from Spain, red fruit forwards, has some tannins in it. Another fun fact about tannins, not only does it cause a drying sensation in your mouth, but it also helps cleanse the palate from the fat from these meats that you pair it with.
Nice.
If you're having a roasted chicken, I would pair it with that Pinot Noir I spoke of just before. And for that rosé option, I would pair it with a ham.
Okay. Well, ham would be on the table of many Southern
Christmas dinners.
Christmas
Yeah,
dinners on
that's-
Christmas Eve or Christmas Day for sure. So you said rosé with ham?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Rosé seems really popular. I don't know if it's sort of a fad, but I feel like I'm seeing a lot of napkins, coasters, t-shirts, and all the accessories that are mentioning rosé. So
Well, it's funny, when the list that you just went through for the Christmas party, I was thinking our local Arrington Vineyard here in our area of Tennessee makes most of the ones you mentioned. They have a really nice Riesling. They have I can't remember which all the ones but they had several good ones.
and they do a
there.
sparkling seasonally.
Yeah.
So they'll have
Wonderful.
something
Yeah.
in November and December,
If
maybe
somebody
into
wanted to-
January.
Buy something more Southern.
Yeah.
Arrington Vineyard has some good choices.
That's so good. Well, kind of moving into even the gift sort of category or Christmas gifts or host gifts. Amy, in your opinion, what are some of the best wines to take as a gift to someone?
So I want to say, as to really stand out and be different from all the other guests, bring 2 bottles of wine, one for the party and one to the host.
I love
You can
that.
dress it up in a kitchen towel, tie it with ribbon or twine, and have a little tag that says "for later" or "for you." To thank them that you're putting on this wonderful gathering. And the wine that you pick for the party, go back to those crowd pleaser wines that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Do the Chardonnay or Riesling or Sauvignon Blanc, or the reds, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, or Grenache. Those are safe bet wines. Yes. And
that's a great idea, because I'm thinking, even if you did want to bring, like you're saying, one for the party and one for the host, that gives you the liberty to give maybe your host a more expensive wine for them.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
maybe one that's at a more reasonable or medium price point, because this is served to everyone. So little different there.
Yeah. I like that.
Yes, exactly. That was the point I was going to get to. At least spend $25 or more on the host wine, because those mean it's more personal and you really put some thought into it. And of course, if you ever need a recommendation, just make sure you contact me.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we've sort of touched on wineries in the South on some previous episodes. We recently went to a winery here in Middle Tennessee called Grinders Switch that has muscadine. So we tasted some muscadine wines there, but there are quite a few.
Yeah, I was
wineries
surprised.
all in the South.
Yes.
Good ones too. So we actually also have a list that Southern Living came up with that we're going to link to in our show notes as well, for those that some people like to stay regional. And so for those listeners that are in the South or that want to stay regional to Southern wines, we have a full list of, I think it's 18 or 20 wineries that are located here in the South, and that could be sources for you to purchase this season too.
Or visit.
Yes.
make
yes.
a little visit.
Yes.
Well, let's also mention some gift ideas beyond wine. There's so many fun wine accessories. Let's talk about some of that. Wine glass labels, etc. What are some things you love?
My 2 favorite wine accessories are, it's called wine glass writers, and they're markers that you can use to write on wine glasses or mirrors. So very versatile in that.
Mhm.
I use that for my parties. I also use it when I'm wine tasting myself to remember which wine I poured in each glass.
So good.
And next I
And
have,
it wipes right off. You just write on it
Yes.
and it wipes off.
yes. And I have, it's a wine stopper called Repour. And what it does is it removes the oxygen from the bottle and keeps wine fresh.
Wow.
So it's just, you take this little tab off at the bottom and it absorbs the oxygen. And it's a cool wine stopper that all can use.
That's called a, did you say reopener? What did you call that?
Repour.
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 Repour. Okay.
All
Cool.
right.
That's an actual brand,
That's a
Repour.
great
Okay.
idea.
Love that. Yeah, I love labels for any drinks, even beyond wine, because it's just so confusing. Everybody thinks, oh, I'll remember where I put my glass down, and you inevitably don't. And so, yeah, I think that's super smart to go ahead and get some labels. And that's a good host gift too, especially for somebody that a host that didn't think about that. They could go ahead and open it and bust that right out.
Many of them fit on the stem though. And so many people now are using stemless.
That's
So
true.
that little marker would work, I guess,
That's
even
true.
on a stemless.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? So many
Yes.
of them go on the stem. And then what are you going to do if it's
That's true.
stemless? So
Very good point.
what about corkscrews? Do you have a favorite?
I don't have a brand in mind, but I do prefer, it's a double tap. So it's a corkscrew that has the option where it has the foil cutter.
Yes.
And when you open it, there's two locations where you're going to use it on the bottle. I recommend that because we're always like struggling to get that cork out, right?
Mhm.
So the first level will help inch it out. And then when you move it up more, the second one really gives you that leverage that you
Gotcha.
need. So yeah, a double tap corkscrew.
Every home needs one.
Yeah.
I went to a home, I took wine to a home one time and I didn't realize this gal didn't drink wine very much. So she didn't have one. So the next time I went, that was the gift. Gave her was
That's
the
right.
corkscrew.
I think I was there for that. The night we went looking for a corkscrew
Oh my
out in the
goodness.
country. Yes, that happens. People.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah. Always, I guess that's a great point. Put a corkscrew with that host gift that you
Yeah.
wrap up, because I've experienced that too at a home, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
guess we're not drinking it, but that's all right.
This is a for later gift.
Put
I
one,
guess.
put one in your handbag just in case.
Yes, that
Yes,
too.
if you plan for
I'm
Christmas
prepared.
outfits, go ahead and put a corkscrew in your clutch or your purse. I actually really enjoyed, right when I got married, I got a cork with my new initial for my new last name on it. And I thought that was really fun, but I've seen lots of festive corks that have, something seasonal
Santa Claus or something
on it.
Yeah.
Those can be kind of fun, I think, especially if it's you're intending on it to be used for the party,
And
right?
sitting out, it looks fun.
Yeah. There's a certain sort of finessing to giving, I think, a host gift. Some you, like we talked about earlier, really don't intend for the host to open in the moment, just to put
Right.
aside. And there's others like what I'm describing now, maybe a cork that you're bringing for them to have for use that night. It might even be smart to think about wrapping versus taking unwrapped or just with a bow on it,
Yeah.
so that the host can easily see, oh, I want to use this right now.
Yeah.
Just something I was thinking about. Any other sort of accessories that you like to have on hand or to pass off as gifts?
Honestly, those are the two I go towards.
Mhm.
But a wine decanter, if for the people that really are the wine enthusiast, I recommend that. For your red wines, you can find those multiple places with various price points. I recommend, if you enjoy drinking out of a glass, head towards those crystal glasses. You can find most of them being affordable in smaller sets at your Marshalls or that whole chain,
Yeah.
TJ Maxx, that line.
There's some great stuff there.
You find some great brands there with crystal glass options that I highly recommend.
That's so good. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, I'm really liking a lot of these companies like Orca Coolers makes these little wine glasses that keep things hot or cold.
Yes.
And I really like, they have some cute little patterns, and some of them are Christmas patterns. Some of them are more summery patterns, but they have some cute.
They're so good
styles.
for going to events, right? So a picnic out
Yes.
or a tailgate, or something where you're not just in someone's home or in your own home. They travel so well, and they're
They're
so
just
cute.
And they even, of course, being Southern, we drink a lot of bourbon here, and they have one that's even like a little oak barrel. It looks like a little
so
oak
cute.
barrel. It's
Yeah.
darling.
Yeah.
It's
So Orca Coolers makes some really pretty, they call them just their vino glass. So
Yeah.
we like those as well. Well,
Yes.
Amy, tell our listeners a good way to just even continue keeping up with you and following along with your wine tips.
Sure. Today, for the listeners, you can find and read all about the wines that I mentioned. I have a special page for you on my website, amyoncloudwine.com/steel magnolias.
Sweet.
There you can find all those options, and you can also find me on Instagram at Amy_on_cloudwine.
Awesome. Well, it has been so educational and helpful to talk to you today. And I hope it was helpful to our listeners as well as they navigate the daunting task of.
It can feel daunting. So thank you for bringing them on down to our level.
Absolutely. Well, Amy, hope you have an amazing rest of your 2021. And we will leave you by just our little sign off.
Peace be with you.
And also with y'all. Thank you so much, ladies.